In this day and age, where does a lonely man who's been through so much hell, so much drama, so much problems in this world, isolated, devastated, emotionally trapped in this vicious, sadistic, twisted void, where do you find a nice girl or a good girl? Even though we know those terms are unrealistic and not real, there's no such thing as a good girl. There's no such thing as a nice girl. There's only a such thing as a girl that's attractive to your looks, money, status. And it's brutal, but it's a raw reality. We don't live in the 1950s and 1940s, 1930s. Those days are long gone. Long gone are the days where you can just be an average Joe and you can have a house, wife, kids, a nice car in a nice neighborhood, and your wife doesn't have to work. She can just sit home and take care of the children and stuff like that. Those days are long gone. Nowadays, to get a woman, especially an attractive woman or anybody to really feel you, you have to have the looks. And if you're an ugly guy or a guy that's been, sexually repressed for years and dominated by your fears and, annihilated by your peers, it's definitely hard to try to gain your confidence because if you don't have any type of confidence, you're not going to have that many accomplishments. And your experience in life dictates a lot. The things you've been through, the misery, the pain, the insanity, it all drives you to one conclusion that there's something wicked, evil, and sadistic that controls the world from the shadows. But think deeply. You in a situation in your mid 20s, late 20s, early 20s, maybe even earlier mid 30s, or even older. And all your experiences when it comes to females have been pretty much negative. All your experiences when it comes to trying to get a girlfriend or trying to find a wife has been extremely negative. And the world doesn't make it any easier. When you turn on the TV, you see the rappers, the ball players, you see people that are famous, you see the Kai Cenats and people that are living dream lives that you can't even imagine. Yet you have to go to work every day at some job that you absolutely hate, with people that you despise, with all these coworkers who tell lies about you and they snicker in your face and they talk behind your back, and you have to deal with this daily. You know, it's not a good thing that most people dislike their jobs and they dislike their lives because your job and where you work at correlates directly to your life. And women don't want to be around no guy who's depressed. No woman wants to be around no guy who doesn't have anything going on. He's not confident in himself. He doesn't believe in himself. He doesn't even love himself. No one wants to be around that. And honestly, it's brutal, but this world is truly unfair. So where do guys in our position, in our predicament, where do we go to find love? Because we need love. Where do we go? Who do we talk to? You know, as Eminem said in that one song, where must I go? Who must I show? you know, what do we do in this situation besides focus on money and accumulating our resources? But even if you have money and you finally get the girl you want, does she truly love you? You know, true love is true attraction, and true love is genuine attraction to that person. No girl's gonna be loving you. She may love the money, but if you're a guy that's not really handsome, you're not attractive, she's gonna love the money and the benefits you give her, but she's not gonna really love you, which is gonna, it's gonna mean that she's gonna be cheating behind your back every chance she gets. It's a brutal reality when you get older as well. When you start to notice that your chances and opportunities of finding a young, fertile female is gone. Especially if you're over like 25, 28, hitting your 30s, and you finally get into your 30s and it just gets worse from there. The chances of finding that nice, cool girl that, can help complete you is gone. It's virtually impossible. The only thing now you can do is probably escort max. Money max and escort max, but you're not going to find no true love. And I don't believe true love even exists. Honestly, look at this world. What is this world showing you? That destruction and corruption is the only thing that truly rules and that exists. It's very sickening that You got a bunch of good guys out there with a good heart, with a good mind, with a good spirit, you know, good head on their shoulders, salt of the earth type people that can't find a girl to love them. They can't find a girl to give them a chance. Most of us would just want one good chance with a cool female that can fill our vibe, that can help fill that void in our life, that void in our souls, that hole in our heart that's painful. We try to cope with weed, cope with video games, cope with watching porn, cope with waking off, but none of that ever works. Even your best food, you try to cope eating food, and ordering pizza, whatever it is that you like, eating cheesecake, ice cream, whatever it is, and it doesn't fill that hole in your heart. You need to have a good female in your life, man. It's not good to be alone. There's no such thing as true love, but god damn it, we need to have some type of we need to have some type of female in our lives that can pick us up when we're down, that can rub our backs when we frown, that can help us when we're feeling down. Why is it so difficult for certain men to find love? Why is it so difficult for certain men to find a good girl in their life when there's billions of women out there? You know, billions. In China, they have what they call them throwaway women or something like that in China, where these women they kind of aged out. You know, I bet a lot of us would take those women in China. They're like in their 30s or 40s. They're a little old. You know what I mean? But you know, these are women that when they were younger, they didn't give the good guys a chance, and now they aged out, and then now they're trying to just not be asked out anymore and try to find a husband quickly and fast. But you're not going to marry them for love. It's just somebody needs somebody for them in that bed, I guess. But imagine the men who get to have genuine attraction to a female. Imagine the men who females really truly love, because you're going to know if a girl really loves you. It's gonna be the little subtle things she does, cooking your food, the way she hugs you, the way she looks at you, the way she makes love to you, or when you're making love to her, and then she riding on top, and you know what I mean, and you know, making that nanny pop. you know, you're gonna see the little things as you're playing your video game and you're watching a movie. She grabs your hand and she leans her head on you. Those small little things, you're gonna see that, and that means she really loves you and cares about you. She looking into your eyes as she's giving you fellatio with a high ratio, and you smacking that throat, and bending her over that boat, you feel me? And making that natty smack and clap. Let's be real. But even if you do get money and success, you're gonna feel the energy's off. She's not gonna really love you. She's just gonna do what she has to do in order to get the money, you know? So you're never gonna experience true, genuine love when you're a lonely guy. That's a sad, brutal reality of the world. You're not going to experience it. You know, it's sad and unfortunate, but it's the reality that we have to face. Unfortunately, the only guys who get to experience real, genuine attraction from a female are the attractive, guys or the handsome guys. When a woman looks at them and say, "Hey, you who I want." The woman leaves her boyfriend or leaves her husband or whatever to go with that guy, or the woman just looks at the guy and is naturally attracted to him, and he doesn't have much money or whatever, but she doesn't care. She wants to, still hold him down because of his physical features, his looks, and she's gonna treat him way better than she would a guy that she doesn't really want to be with. So it all comes down to your looks, your genetic positioning in life, your genetic inheritance that you got from your parents or you got from your bloodline or your family line. Something that you didn't have no power over is one of the most important and potent things in life. How is that fair? Tell me, how does that make sense? Where do we go? Do you go to the mall to meet a girl? Do you meet her online? Do you meet her in your class? So when she says, "Ew, get away," and she rejects you and everybody laughs and looks at you? Or do you meet her walking out the fucking room? You know what I mean? Like if you're in a college dorm, like where do you meet them? Do you meet them through friends? But if you're a guy that's lonely and rejected and dejected, you're not gonna have that many friends that have access to pretty girls, And even if you do, they're not gonna mess with you. You're gonna tell them about playing Fortnite, playing League of Legends, playing what? Playing Xbox, Grand Theft Auto Online. What are you gonna talk to them about? You know, there was this one girl, this E girl that I liked. Her name is Brittany Venti, and she's like a light skinned black girl. She's mixed, but she likes to cater to the alt right, the extreme alt right. And it's funny because I was like, if this girl just had some sense in her head, you know what I mean? She would be my perfect dream girl, Brittany Venti. But her mind is just not there. She's just so ignorant in a lot of things, and it's brutal. But that's how the world is, man. You know, and you may see the girl that you really want, and her thoughts and mind may be twisted, from ignorance and arrogance and just trying to appease a certain crowd of guys who really don't care about her no way. They just treat her like she's a wench, a bed wench, Absolutely brutal. But think about it. If ER, the legendary Elliot Rogers, if he would have had somebody in his life, a good girl would have calmed him down that night, and he would have done the things he did, those horrible things he did, you know. And what's crazy about him is he had access to Hollywood's elite. His dad was a top Hollywood freaking producer. He drove a BMW. He had like what $800 glasses or something like that. He had style, he had uniqueness, he had presence. That guy had it going on, man. A Hollywood father, money and success. Some of us don't have that. Some of us are homeless. We don't even got a place to stay. Some of us, we don't even have family. We're by ourselves in this world. So how are we supposed to find a good girl for us, And there's no God that's looking out for us saying, oh, he's going through that, he's going through that. Okay, he deserves to have a good woman. Let me bless him with a good woman in his life. That's not how the God of this world works. The God of this world is the Autoboth, is the demiurge. He purposely put you in this position so you can go through hell and pain. You see, some of us in this world, some, not all, some of us have a divine spark in us that this God didn't create. It's from our spiritual mother, Sophia, from the pleroma. And she put that spark in us, which made the God of this world mad. So his way of spiting us and getting back at us is putting us in these humiliating situations and these evil formations that we're put in. And he orchestrates this from his evil heavens. And he puts us in situations that make us want to cry, feel depressed, and make us stressed. So that way, when we release those negative energetic manifestational frequencies, this entity and his archons, they feed off of it. It strengthens them. It makes them more powerful. It's why we have so much division in the world. We're trapped in a spiritual prison. We're literally trapped in a spiritual prison forever, until we can quote unquote escape, you know? It's why certain guys who, you yearn for that female in your life, I yearn for Brittany Venti, you know? I really, that would be my damn wifey if I could. But her mind has been corrupted by the damn archons, you know? It's absolutely brutal. But that's the world we live in, man, where you want a girl so bad, but she doesn't want nothing to do with you. And that's how it is for a lot of guys in our situation and in our position. Every girl that we like doesn't want nothing to do with us. And the minute you try to show any romantic interest, it's when they stop messaging you, it's when they stop hitting you up. I can't tell you how many times on Xbox Live where I'll just hear a girl's voice and I immediately want to add them to my friends list, especially if they show their picture and they're cute. It's a brutal thing when you get to that position. And about 10, 15 years ago, I would hear a girl's voice and I wouldn't give a fuck. I would think automatically, okay, that's somebody's girlfriend or wife or whatever, or sister playing on their account or whatever. I don't care. You know, I wouldn't even care. But when you're so lonely and desperate, just hearing a female, like you're playing Call of Duty like 2:30 at night, especially if you're high and you hear a girl's voice, oh my gosh, she sounds so pretty, blah, blah. It just calms you and naturally calms you down. You start playing better and all that, and people around start trying to show off in front of the girl. It's crazy the power women have over men. And most women, they know this, and some women don't even know it at all. You know, if you're a woman listening to me, which is pretty rare, but it happens, believe it or not, but just know that you have power over men if you didn't know that. Men will do anything to get your attention because your attention means their ascension, you know, from this damn emotional prison that we find ourselves in. It's going to be brutal for guys like us to find love. It's pretty much impossible. If you haven't found love after the age of 21, 25, 28, 34, 35, 40, 47, 50 is over. Because most guys, when they get the girl of their dreams, they get them young. They don't wait till they're past 25, past their prime. Once you pass your prime as a man, in this world, it looks at you as you're useless, in this world. It's absolutely brutal, but it's the damn truth.